Sawadee Krap, and welcome to another episode here for the Funk It Pod. It's whatever day of the week you're watching or listening to it is. It's a Saturday here in Thailand right now. It's time for recording, and you know what that means. It's time for the Funk It Pod. This is now the media part again of the show. Haven't done this in a while. If you follow the show, you know why, because life happened. An update on this coming also then in the other part, in the Thailand Tuesday part. But for now, we focus a little bit on the media, because that's actually like the bread and butter. That's how it all started here, like analyzing what's happening in the media, why it's happening, and so on. And maybe that's also the reason why some of you are still tuning in or listening to it, because we used to discuss quite a lot of what's happening in the media and why. And finally, now that life has settled in a little bit, at least here, I came around to actually watch the infamous special by Andrew Schulz, like stand-up comedy. For those of you who are not familiar with Andrew Schulz is a stand-up comedian from the US. According to Joe Rogan, he changed the game once and now maybe even twice. I think that's also what his co-host, he has a podcast called Flagrant. Used to be Flagrant 2, now it's only Flagrant. His co-host is another stand-up comedian, Akash Singh, and he said he thinks Andrew Schulz changed the game twice now. He also has a podcast with Charlemagne the God, which is Brilliant Idiots. You see, I've done my homework on that guy. And before it comes across as like hate or something, or hating, I followed it for a long time, and I do like most of the things that he's doing. I've been a fan of the podcast for a while. I like the old Flagrant 2 a little bit better, because right now it's more like promoting the stuff all the time. Like, it's a bit too much, I think, but I mean, fair enough. If you have your own platform, that's what you do, of course. So I like the old Flagrant 2 better a little bit. I also like the old studio better, the old studios better, because it was just way more intimate rather than like TV show style now. It's a bit too much bling bling and show off right now for my taste. Like, probably there is an audience for what they're doing. Certainly there is. Doesn't take away that he's a great stand-up comedian. His co-hosts on the podcast are great stand-up comedians. Like Akash Singh is funny at times. So is, I guess, the Mark guy with the French last name. I'm kidding. I can pronounce it. I'm from Europe. So they're all probably kind of funny-ish somehow. Now the special, right? So, and we look at it not just is it funny, because of course humor is like subjective. Look at it from like the media perspective. So usually what happens if you're a stand-up comedian and you reach a certain level, you get like a special, meaning you film 45 minutes, an hour 20, an hour 30 or whatever. And then this will be paid for by either a TV station in the old days, or maybe now a streaming platform. Like Netflix has lots of comedy specials on there, right? Right. So I think the last one that I saw was Whitney Cummings, actually, which was okay. I think right now most stand-up comedians are funnier on their own podcast than they are on stage. That might also be because they're just more used to podcasts. So maybe I'm more used to podcasts than I am used to watching them on stage. Probably also in real life, when you're there, it's of course way funnier than watching it on Netflix, which is obvious, like with any live event, right? But let's go back to what we want to talk about. So infamous. So Andrew Schulz had another special, like his last special was on Netflix, even though like 3 years ago, so on Joe Rogan, he said Netflix gonna die. And I mean, now it's about to die. Not dying, but fledgling a little bit. More on this in a second. But so now he had it on Netflix before. Now he said the streaming service provider that bought his special wanted him to censor too much of the content, so he bought the rights back and he releases it by himself on via his website, via like a third party that does the hosting and the ticketing and so on. And you can only buy it for 2 weeks. There was the deal, and then it's done. All right, so that's the setup. First, now I watched it. Are there jokes that might be censored, or that Netflix at all would feel uncomfortable with? Maybe. However, are those jokes worse than in any other specials, stand-up comedians content that they have on Netflix and other streaming service providers? Not sure. There are a few like rape jokes in there, abortion jokes. nothing that you haven't heard or seen before. So it's not as outrageous. Which leads me to believe that this was the plan all along, and this is just like this is a marketing tactic to say, hey, they want to censor me, you have to watch it here. You can't watch it there, you have to watch it here, which is okay, because now he's got if you bought it, he's got your name on the mailing list, and he's got your data and everything. So smart move, of course. Also, he's not the first one. Louis C.K. did it has been doing this ever since, and now that people mentioned that, and eventually Andrew invited Louis C.K. to the podcast and yeah, I'm giving you props. I think that only happened because of some, not backlash, but mentioning in the public that this is not a unique way of doing it, that someone else has been doing it before. I think Louis C.K. also knew that this was the reason why he got invited. Okay, now back to that media thing. So I think it was a marketing tactic, which is fine, fair enough. Like, that's what you do. If you have something like, hey, you can't get it anywhere else, it's so awesome, no one else is cool enough, whatever, to show it, you have to get it here from me directly. Okay, sure. Why not? I don't think anyone told him to censor anything, I think, because they know who he is. They know if they sign a deal with him, they know what they get. So then I said you can buy it for 2 weeks. Then the 2 weeks are gone. And now, surprise, surprise, it's up again. You can buy it again. He said that's because lots of people messaged him that they still want to buy it, which I think, if you are a person who follows Andrew Schulz, you're probably, and you're like at a point where you say, I didn't buy it yet, but I want to watch the special, you're probably also able to find the special somewhere else by now, because it's really easy. So I also think that this is also marketing. It's like, so many people message me. Oh yeah, really? I don't think so. But it's fair. Again, marketing tactic, fair enough. You're like, hey, so many people said this and that. That's why we did this. That's marketing 101, right? So no problem with that. All good. The only problem that I have is just like, and I mean, I have like 100,000 of Andrew Schulz's audience, but it's just so obvious, which upsets me a little bit. I think it could have been done smarter. And what I also think is that after watching the special, the editing wasn't that great. You can see at like 2 or 3, I think I saw it twice. I don't want to exaggerate. I think I saw it twice. At 2 points, you can see where they used different tapings of the special. Like, I think they shot it like 3 times or so. So at 2 points or so, the cut is obvious. At one point, he was joking, talking with the audience, and then he comes back from drinking water and then just continues without a transition, basically, which is really upsetting because they should be better at that. And it also looks like a special that was made for social media, because now if you scroll through his Instagram, for example, you can see like 80% of the content of the special, more or less. Or let's say, let's not exaggerate. Let's say 60% of the special is basically in parts on Instagram, and it was kind of set up that it's clippable, I think, in my opinion. Which again is also fair, because I mean, when the pandemic hit, Andrew Schulz was like the first who was like this, turn your phone sideways real quick, I want to show you something, and then went into the rants. That was amazing. That was awesome. It was a great idea. Not everybody, many copied it, of course, but it was great. That was really unique back then for the scene that he's in. So now I think he's just going down the road further by being like more marketable, I think, and I think it's on purpose. It's also, he's got a marketing agency, I believe, that he owns, right? So he's I think he's more like me. Andrew, you're like a digital marketing guy. Come give a lecture at my university. So it's very digital marketing-y setup, which maybe it's only something that you see if you're in the space of digital marketing, but it's kind of like, I don't want to see that. I just want to see and be like, oh my God, that's so awesome. Look at a stand-up comedian. But it's more like, oh, look at the smart marketing, which I don't want to think of when I watch stand-up comedy. But again, that's like a personal thing, of course. So from a marketing point of view, it's smart, of course. It's the one thing that annoys me, and I mentioned it before, is just And it's understandable because they have such a big platform, but it's just shoving down your throats the whole time. It's on Instagram, it's on the pod, it's everywhere all the time. And it's just, I just want to go back to the old Flagrant, when it was Flagrant 2, when I was like, just let me listen to 2 hours of entertainment so I don't have to think about anything else and just don't shove shit down my throat. And let me skip the ads. At least the ad reads were kind of funny in the beginning, but now it's just also annoying. So a little, I miss the good old times, that's what I'm saying. Again, from a marketing point of view, it all makes sense. It's all well done. If I would advise someone to how to set up a marketing strategy, that's how you do it. I just don't want to see it. Okay. Nevertheless, it's still funny to watch, like the special. So if you're hesitating, should I watch it? Shouldn't I watch it? Watch it. It's funny. It's like a little less than an hour, I think. So it's all good. It's entertaining. Yeah, so that leads me then to what I said earlier, because he was like, it's on a streamer, it's not on a streamer, and so on. I do it by myself. The streaming wars are continuing, right? And so now in the news, Walmart might end up jumping into streaming wars, creating their own platform. As if there aren't enough already. I just downgraded my Netflix subscription, to be honest. I was about to cancel, and then Netflix is like, hey, 99 Thai baht, because we're in Thailand here, and you can only stream on your iPad or your phone, not on your computer. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm only watching the iPad anyway, so let's do it. So I pay 99 baht right now per month, which is fine, whatever. So then I also checked out the games on Netflix, which are terrible, which is clearly just an add-on to like, hey, we've got games too. How about you actually pay some attention to those games, Netflix, and develop a few good games? And then maybe learn from Andrew Schulz. Like Netflix could learn from Andrew Schulz, like in diversification and so on. Because, and I talked about this with one of my colleagues the other day, they're wasting so much potential. Like, lots of shitty content on Netflix. I think we can all agree. And lots of good content that we watched it for, like that we got it for Friends, for How I Met Your Mother, and those things just for nostalgia, right? It's gone because it's too expensive to keep the rights. Okay, their own content that Netflix produces, yeah, sometimes awesome, very often not. Stranger Things great. Another 100 shows suck. Cobra Kai, which was not initially from Netflix, great. 100 other shows suck. And that's where they are missing potential. Like Stranger Things. Why not have like not those shitty games that there are on Netflix, but why not have a real game from Stranger Things? Why not have like more transmedia storytelling approach here? Why not do more with Stranger Things than just the series? You could do so much more with it. It could be like, it's a franchise, but it could be like way more than that. It could be like Harry Potter. Harry Potter is the go-to example in one of my classes, of course, because there's just so much out there, like from games and toys and obviously the books, the video games, the board games, the musical, the movies. Stranger Things could be one of those things, for example. And like, I mean, Cobra Kai also, and the other Bridgerton, the other successful shows could be that too. And so how about you focus more on that and then leave the shit out of the way? Because even though I love watching Cobra Kai, I don't watch Stranger Things. I mean, I do it so I know what it's about, but I don't watch it religiously. I did watch Bridgerton, which was fun, just because it was like something different that I usually don't watch things like that. I also watched it so I can talk with my students about it. So they do have some content that sticks. Then why not focus on high quality content? Right now, it seems like the main KPI for Netflix is subscriber numbers, but maybe you should focus on others too. And I'm sure they have their business development set up, of course, but I'm just spitballing. I'm thinking like, there must be a reason why so many people stop subscribing, right? So it's quality would be better. Don't just go for quantity, go for quality. But of course, it's hard to change because your stock depends also on that. Stock price is dependent on how many subscribers you have, because it's the easiest KPI to understand for investors. Like, oh, subscribers dropping, I take my money out, and so on, of course, right? But now with like the Netflix, what do we have like in the US? And Hulu is around, I think. Amazon Prime, obviously, Amazon Prime now also starting to advertise aggressively here in Thailand. They bought like some SkyTrain advertisement, like a whole SkyTrain is like colored in Amazon Prime colors and so on. So also coming more aggressively over here. Walmart is in there. Disney Plus has a deal with one of the bigger internet service providers here with AIS. which I have, and it sucks. Like AAS sucks. Disney Plus, I subscribed to. I unsubscribed already. I didn't find that much content it was worth for me to keep subscribing. Yeah. So that sound was me living in Thailand right now. I'm sorry. It was a broken motorcycle, clearly. So yeah, those streaming wars. If they all just keep going down that road and don't find a way to actually monetize in a smart way, I don't see where this is going. This is not just I want to beat the other streaming service provider without thinking about how to actually sustainably grow my business. And this can be fun for now, but in the long run, it's not, because we're all very excited with Netflix, and now we're all unsubscribing from Netflix. And now everyone's like, hey, cool, let's try Amazon Prime for a while, or Amazon TV, or whatever they call it. And then same thing's going to happen there again. So what's the end goal there? Is it just to drive the other one out of business? Or is it to actually foster a loyal fan base, user base that sticks with you because you produce great content? It's basically like, do you go for generally speaking, for the content, right? Content-wise, do you go for the quick success? Do you go for the clicks, the views, and hope you go viral? And you try to extend it for a while, so you're famous for a year, 2, or do you go for a loyal fan base that will come back to what you're doing, even if you're not offering your services for 99 baht, for example. And so that's, I think, a question that those streaming service providers have to answer eventually. And I'm curious to see where this is going. So, because it's not sustainable, it can't be. And at one point, Amazon, Netflix, the investors, going to say, like, we do want to see some return for our investment. Stop burning all the cash. Do something. And then that's then where we will see who's got the plan, who's got the content, who's got the actual loyal fan base. And right now, I don't see anyone having that. But right now, it's just who's cheaper, I go there. So I don't think this can be sustained. But hey, who am I to judge, right? So maybe if they keep doing this for the next 10 years, who knows? Good on them. Keep burning your money. The last thing I wanted to add here was then just to then close the circle, come back to the beginning. I talked about Infamous and Andrew Schulz and comedy, because I'm a big stand-up comedy fan, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't talk about it. And I just wonder, where is stand-up comedy heading now, right? So, because I mentioned in the beginning that I watched a few other comedy specials. I watched Whitney Cummings. I tried to watch it until the end. I listened to Bill Burr's special while I was doing stuff, but I had it running. I do listen to Louis C.K. quite a bit, of course. But, and I'm not a stand-up comedian, so I shouldn't be judging, obviously, but it's just, it doesn't keep me glued to it when I turn it on. And sometimes I fast forward, but then maybe you miss the one thing that you think is funny. So, but then I start doing things on the side, and once you do things on the side, you don't pay attention anymore. Maybe there's a very smart, sophisticated joke in there, but then you don't get it anymore. Even with Infamous yesterday, and I knew that that I would talk about it in the podcast, so I was like, I have to pay attention. But even in Infamous, in between, I was just texting. I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't text. I have to focus right now so that I know where I can talk about what and so on. It happens with every comedy special I'm watching right now. It's like I'm starting to do things on the side. And so that's not what it's supposed to be, and which tells me that something's missing there. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's like that. But it's not keeping me attached anymore. Maybe there's too much filler. Maybe there's too much setup. Maybe I just watch too much or listen to too much of their content that I already know. When, like Andrew Schulz's facial expression, I know what's happening. I know. Okay, now he's taking a mental break. You know, when he says like go on, or things like this, I know that's when he has a mental break. Then he resets so that he can like think again and come up with new things. When he doesn't know what to say in a podcast, he says like, go on, explain. And I see, okay, now this expression is happening. Now I can tune out for a second, for example. when he in the infamous special, he makes like a few jokes where he roasts the audience a little bit, like some crowd work. And he does the same thing that we do when we make like offensive jokes with our friends, like offensive jokes, and then while you're finishing the joke, you're like, hey, no, I didn't mean that guy. Hey, over there, what's happening? Right, so he does it like 3 or 4 times. You're like, I saw the setup coming like a mile away. It's still funny. The joke is still funny, but you saw the setup, and so it's not catching him by surprise anymore. So I'm really curious to see like Rogan's special, because he's saying like, yeah, it's really tight, it's really good. So I'm really curious to see, because now the bar is like, if he says it himself, it's like the best ever. I'm wondering, is it the best? So and I wonder why I'm not that connected anymore. So maybe that is because the overexposure, now during COVID, it's like all I did was listening to podcasts and stand-up comedians and so on, and analyzing what they're doing, because I'm so much into it. I like it so much that I want to know how do all the people do it, and so that I try to analyze and look for cues and so on. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's why I'm not that, I don't know, bound to the screen anymore when I watch it. Let me know what you think. Like, do you see the change too? Do you feel the change too, or is it just me and it's just my overexposure? Maybe if you're not as overexposed to it and you just listen to it once in a while, you're like, no, it's awesome. I couldn't take my eyes off it. Then maybe it really is just me, and then I have to take that into consideration. So let me know what do you think. And again, I didn't mean to hate on it, just try to analyze it. So I could never do what those stand-up comedians are doing, so I'm very appreciative of the artwork. I just try to figure out like what's happening right now. Okay, so I think that's enough 20 minutes of like me talking about stand-up comedy without being actually funny, but I'm German, so that's okay. It's enough. More on then again media and what happens in the media, maybe even the news media, if I can get around to watch them again in the next media episode of the Funk Report. Until then, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, review that thing wherever you listen to it, because then more people can find us, which is awesome. Until then, stay safe, take care, and we'll see and talk soon. Sawadee Cup.